Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Steve Duty, the lead singer of Special Duties, the former bass player, the original member that started the band with Mr. Arrogant back when we were at school. So, I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. And the band started in 1977?
Yeah, it did. Steve and I were leaving school in 78, and we went to watch the adverts and came away thinking we could do that. And so managed to convince our parents. Mine bought me a guitar. Steve's dad and his mum bought him an amp. And that was the start of it, really.
Wow. And ironically, you did Gary Gilmore's Eyes.
Yeah, we did. You know, we loved the adverts. I mean, you know, a song like that was just, you know, the lyrics on it are so clever.
Brilliant.
And the composition of the song as well is something, you know, the way it was written, you know, TV Smith is a genius. And so lyrically very good, musically very good, and just a great song for us to copy, you know, just a great song for us to pay some homage to, you know.
And I must say, you did it really well.
Yeah, thanks.
Because it's a very different style to your style of music.
Yes.
But you did it in a really, how would you say it, respectful way.
Yeah, well, that's nice. I'm glad you picked that up. I mean, we really love the song. You just have to do these things some justice, I think. You know, and it's always... So there's some terrible covers been made of some really great songs. Mention no names.
No.
But we didn't want ours to be one of those, oh my God, have you heard Special Duty's cover of Gary Gilmore's Eyes? It's awful. And we used to play it live. So I think once we got used to playing it live, when we then went to record it, it was kind of easy on the basis that we'd learned how to play it live. It's a tough song to play. It's not an easy song to play. Lyrically, you know, vocally, it's hard to sing, and you know, from a composition point of view, it's hard to play. So yeah, it's a great song though.
It is a great song. But then Special Duties, you've had some fantastic songs. You really have. Violent Society, and gotta say it, the one I love the most, it's gotta be Colchester Council, full of shit.
Oh man, yeah.
It just sums up Colchester Council absolutely perfectly. I mean, they were terrible. I don't know about now, but they were terrible.
Oh, they were awful, and they you know, they really didn't care about youth. That was the bit that we were so upset about. And there was nothing to do. There was no youth clubs. There was just nothing for young people. And then, you know, in the same breath, they worry about, you know, youths being disorderly in the streets. Well, if you gave something for them to do, then they wouldn't be. And so, you know, it's one of those, you know, give people a youth club, give people something to do, give them a sense of worth and a sense of being. Then people are not disruptive. People don't go out and cause trouble. You know, kids get bored, you know.
Exactly. So, they do. If they've got nothing to do, and more or less as we were growing up, there wasn't all the video games and stuff where they can sit at home and do something. We were out on the streets because there was nothing else to do.
No,
it was a case of alcohol and on the street. That was it.
Yeah, exactly that.
They never thought, did they? They never thought that they had to provide something.
No, that's true. And so, you know, when we got our chance to meet them after we infamously plugged into Tesco's underneath the Culver Street precinct, and you know, police were called, and it was a fantastic thing. I never forget the face of the manager of the store when he came out and found us all in his loading bay, plugged into his electric, with with about 100 punks outside, all jumping about and dancing, you know, and it was brilliant. It was a great thing, but what it did was at least it put us on the map in terms of saying to the council, listen, guys, the reason we're plugged in underneath the precinct into Tesco's free electricity here, playing a concert for the punks, is that because there's nowhere else for us to be. There's nothing for us to do, and you don't care. And at least it gave us the opportunity to talk to them. They hated Colchester Council. They hated the song. They thought that we should be more adult about it and talk to them, which we tried that, didn't work. So we then put the single out. But, you know, interestingly, we've met some people years later that worked inside the council, people that weren't punks, people that just worked for the council. And they said it became a bit of an anthem inside the building. So, you know, regular people, like you can just imagine, can't you? Regular people turning up in their suits with their shirts and ties on, you know, walking through the building going, Colchester Council, and then someone else in the building going, full of shit. And it's just like, you know, these are stories that you hear 30 years later about, oh, you're that band. Did you know, my dad used to tell me that people in the building used to shout that across the building, and you think that's just the best thing ever. People that knew nothing about who we were, what we stood for, nothing about punk music, guys probably in their 50s who worked and went, there's this little band called Special Duties, and they built this song called Special Duties, Colchester Council, full of shit. And, you know, and like this 50-year-old guy walking around with his suit shouting Colchester Council, and someone else going, full of shit. Just brilliant. That's just brilliant. Love that. What a great story. It's just the best. When people tell you things years and years later, they're just...
So what year was that then, Steve?
Sorry?
What year was that?
What, when we recorded that?
When you were underneath the Tesco's, what year was that?
Oh, my God. That was do you know what? It's hard to remember the older you get, but I think that was very early on, something like 78, 79, something like that. Very, very early doors. 79 would be probably my pick of those.
Is that the Tesco's that was with the car park?
Do you know what? I said Tesco's and I meant Marks and Spencer's.
Marks and Spencer's.
My apologies.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, Marks and Spencer's. They had a little Marks and Spencer's up in the Culver Street precinct, and we picked on them because there was enough room either side for everyone else to be, you know, all the punks to be jumping about.
Yeah,
and they were pretty much in the middle, so we picked them. We didn't pick on M&S particularly, Marks and Spencer's particularly, but yeah, that was how it was, you know. So yes, it was them.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's just a great story, though, isn't it?
Yeah, really and, you know, like everything in life, you know, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But usually, truth is much better than fiction, and this is one of those ones that if you chose to write that, people wouldn't think that was. They would say, "No, come on, you didn't do that." Nobody would do that. But that was part of the punk ethos, you know. It was like, you know,
just don't care. Do what you want, yeah. Basically,
we do what we want. We're enemies of the state here, you know.
That's it. We don't care.
We don't care. So, what's the worst you can do? Lock us up. Do it. Go ahead. You know.
And have you still got the affinity with Col U?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you grow up. Steve, my best pal, Steve, who was the original singer.
Yeah.
He, I mean, he hardly misses a game still.
Oh, really?
Later, yeah, he's a huge Col U fan, and you know, it's my hometown, so we keep an eye on what they do.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, hope that they don't get relegated. They don't seem to get promoted very often now, but just hang on in there. But yeah, you know what? At some stage, the fortunes of the club should change, but not right now, unfortunately.
No, they had a great spree, didn't they, at one point where they were going up, and then that new ground came along and that was them finished, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a terrible small capacity, and you know, you can't do much with a capacity like that. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes that are not right at that club, and you know, it tends to be that, you know, people forget it's a football club at times and try to run it like a business, and it's not a happy place at the moment. It really isn't. But you know, things are cyclical. Things will change. Time will change, and that club will be better than it is at the moment. You know. But
I mean, I've never been a football fan. Well, as I grew older, I was never a football fan. But my mate from Harwich is, and he used to say, "Look, I got tickets. Come to Col U," and that was at Layer Road.
Yes.
And do you know, I used to enjoy it there. It was just plain and simple ground. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, it was. And again, you know, there's a lot of clubs that have moved on and moved out to different venues, and it sort of takes the spirit of the club away. But yeah, times move and times change. But I lived very close by to that ground. So did Steve. And it was a place where we all went as kids. We all went and watched. Up until the time when the band was formed, we were still going regularly then. So it's a shame.
Have you still got are the issues still there with Crass?
No, it's a long time gone. That it's a funny thing, we for a long time when we first sort of started playing again, we didn't play Bullshit Crass, and the amount of times people would literally lynch you for not playing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. I remember distinctly being in New York, playing at CBGB's in New York, and a guy, we didn't play it, and the guy said, he basically said, I've come all the way from Canada to watch you guys, and you didn't play the song I came to watch you play. So there comes a point in your journey here where you say, you know what, we have to play this song. People love it. It's a great song. Actually, as a song, I like it. It's well written. Yeah. Musically, it's a good song. It's a fun song to play. And people really like it. So it's become one of those songs you then drop from the set list. It's always in the set list because people love it. But I've met in the last 5 or 6 years, I met with Steve Ignorant and put my hand on his shoulder at Rebellion and said, hello, Steve from Special Duties. His face was a picture because he thought I was going to give him a hard time, and I just said, it's a long time, isn't it? We should have had this chat a long time ago. And we just agreed that, I think, like guys do, if we'd have had a punch up with each other back in the day, probably 5 minutes later we'd have been best of buddies and it would have been all over, but I think we let these things fester and fester and fester, and the media got hold of it and everybody got onto it and made it something it wasn't. It was an encounter between them, us, and a whole bunch of the other bands like, Conflict, Flux, Opinion Indians, etc. Yeah. And it was a little bit of handbags, but so it was. It didn't escalate into a big punch up, and people got hold of it and made it something it wasn't. So, we smile about it now. He's been asked in interviews in the past about how he feels about us, and he says, I could see a time in the future where I could come up and sing Bullshit Crass with Special Duties, because they were probably right.
Yeah, because I remember at the time as well, even being a punk myself, it was one of those bands that did divide, because some people said it was just too much. Other people said, it was all right, and it was dividing.
It was dividing, and you don't want that. When we play, shows now, we'll have people who have Crass written on their back. You'll have skinheads, all the braces, Fred Perry's, then you have the punks as well. You'll have just the regular punks, and nowadays that's totally acceptable. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, when you used to play places, I mean, there was trouble. There was trouble between skinheads and the punks. There was trouble between the punks and the crusty punks, as they used to call them. So, that was horrible. Nobody wanted that. We didn't want that. We didn't go looking for it. I mean, as punks, we were always in trouble with everybody else. Nobody liked the punks. We were always in trouble with the soul boys, and we grew up in a garrison town, so you had soldiers in the town from various different regiments, and they all hate the punks. So we had enough trouble on a weekly basis, and it was a weekly basis. We were always in trouble with the local youth and the local soldiers. The last thing you wanted is to be fighting each other. So, it's nice now, it's refreshing now that all of those, punks and boot boys, if you like that, you know, we all get on really well, and there's never any trouble. And I won't stand for it any more than the rest of the band will stand for any trouble at our gigs. If there's ever any trouble, we always stop. People get ejected. It's the end of your night. I'm sorry, if you're prepared to get in a fight at one of our gigs, you're leaving. I won't tolerate it. None of the band will. So we don't want it. It's just not needed. It's not necessary. You know, we're one big happy family now. So
you're talking about the garrison, Steve. It's like I was a lot younger and I was working for a company, and they said, "Oh, you're going to start going to the garrison." What? You're joking, aren't you? Like, they really love people like me. And I dealt with the military hospital, and a lot of those were two para, so they were like, some of them were ex-SAS and stuff. I thought, God, this is going to be horrendous. And found them really nice people, very accepting. And even the sergeant there, he said, you know, we got the Christmas do coming up. He said, are you willing to put a bit of a suit and a tie on? He said, you're invited. You and your wife are invited. And it was like,
fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
So
and do you know what it? Yeah, and do you know what it is? My experience was the same. I had a job also years later when I worked with the garrison, and was extensively worked with the garrison, and you know, the sergeants and the captains, the majors, the people I would associate with were all lovely. No drama at all. And, you know, growing up in a garrison town, most of my friends from school were in the army. You know, we the school that I went to had a lot of children there from the army estate. So, most of my friends that, you know, we had that. But it wasn't them that was the problem. It was the boy soldiers. You know, it was you know, it was a 17-year-old soldier from Dumbarton who was, you know, in the King's Own Scottish Border Regiment, who didn't like the way you looked. And if you looked like that in Dumbarton, you got your head kicked in. So, you know, there were pubs in Colchester where we would go, and there were pubs in Colchester where the soldiers would go. And you never, ever mixed. You never, ever did, because it was their pub, and this pub over here was where the punks went. But, you know, some of these guys would have a few too many beers, and they would stand outside and wait for you, you know. So you know, we were always, none of us were shy to get involved in a punch up. So you know, we always used to come out if they wanted to have a fight with us. We'd always fight, and so you did. But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't the older ones that were a problem. It was just the young boy soldiers. And then they, you know, they'd get carted off by the military police. We'd get carted off by our police, and then the next weekend we'd all meet up again. You know, it was almost like sport. You know, it was like, right, let's go and beat the punks up again. You know, and then, you know, find out that they couldn't, and then they come back the next weekend with a few more of them, and let's go and beat the punks up, and then they find they couldn't, and with even more, and it just became sport in the end for them. So it was, although we laugh about it now, it was pretty. But it was just, you know, it was just part of growing up. You know, thankfully we didn't live in a knife culture. You know, thankfully we didn't live in gun culture. It was just, you know, you just got a punch in the face. It didn't hurt that much, and it soon went away. But I wouldn't want to be in a culture of violence like that now, with gun culture and knife culture as it is. But horrendous. Just one of those things you look back on and say, you know, it was part of growing up, it was part of life, but you know, an unpleasant part. You know, certainly if you weren't someone who was capable of looking after yourself, you'd probably be in a bit of trouble. But I think most of the punks were all those kids, you know, like me, who were you know, growing up in the care system or whatever, as I did. And you know, Stuart, also the drummer, grew up in the care system, and you know, when you grow up in that system, you know how to look after yourself. So thank God we could, you know.
What was your pub? The Cups?
No, the Hole in the Wall.
The one on the where the main road goes up the bridge.
Yeah, that's it. Up Balkan Hill. Yeah,
that's it. That's the road.
Balkan
That's
Hill,
the one.
And then behind us, you know, the Hole in the Wall was there, and then behind us was the Wagon and Horses. And the Wagon and Horses was the soldiers' pub, but you had to walk past that to come to ours. So you know that. You couldn't escape it. If you managed to get past them on the way into the pub, you saw, sure as eggs would see them on the way out. You know, it was one of those. You couldn't miss each other, you know.
And there was the art centre.
Yeah, exactly. Literally just round the corner from there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Some good places, weren't there?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, eventually, there became.
And then they changed the cups. What the hell happened there?
Oh, I don't know. I think everybody.
Turned into a wine bar, didn't it?
Yeah, there were a lot of. Obviously, there was a lot of post-punk stuff going on, and we had a band from Colchester called the Lepers, who became Modern English. I don't know if you know that band.
Yeah.
And, great guys, a little bit older than us, Robbie Gray and people like that. And Steve Walker, whose sister I went to school with, and, people like that. Mick Conroy, I went out with his sister. So, there was a lot of similarities between us and the Lepers. They were just that couple of years older and played at Woods and played locally, and then went on to form Modern English and did incredibly well, and still are doing incredibly well. So, hats off to them. But, there was on the back of that sort of whole post-punk kind of wave, there was, the Cups turned into some sort of trendy little wine bar where all those guys used to come.
The council,
we were too scruffy and smelly for that,
And the council, didn't they put up the fences around the wall of the graveyard, the old graveyard, to stop people sitting on the wall
where everybody used to sit, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
And that was like, okay, so now you're forcing people to walk around with the alcohol rather than sitting down enjoying themselves and chatting. It just took another thing away from them.
No, honestly, people are stupid, aren't they?
And I don't even think there was any damage done. It was
it wasn't that. I think they would thought that people were disrespectful because they were sitting in the graveyard, but I don't know that it was there was any disrespect ever about that.
No,
but
no,
another Colchester Council wonder.
I mean, you've got the art centre that was with a graveyard, and
exactly that.
The amount of places I went, nights there I went, and you go outside and there's all the goths all lying on the graves.
Yeah. So I know it doesn't make any sense, does it?
No. What about is there going to be a new album or anything coming out, Steve?
Well,
it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, that's right. Well, we recorded 7 days a week, and that was released in November of 21. That's had fantastic reviews. It really has. I mean, that's the first new material for us since 97, really. The first time that, we've recorded without Steve in the band. Yeah. So it was, it was one of those where, you worry about recording new stuff and how it's going to be received. But, Bart and I used to write the tunes. Bart's still the guitarist. He's been the guitarist since pretty much the beginning. Stuart, same drummer. So between me, Stuart, and Bart, you had sort of 40 years of history there. And we were pretty confident that we could replicate the Duty sound between us. And the only thing that was going to change a little bit maybe was the vocals. But everything's been very well received, really well received. The new stuff. We put, songs in there called Billy Jones and Mary Whitehouse and things like that have now become sort of part of the set, part of the set that you can't leave out. People want to hear Mary Whitehouse. They want to hear Rebel. They want to hear Billy Jones. Those are songs that people are saying, you are playing some off your new album tonight, aren't you? And yeah, we are. But the minute you do that, what do you then leave out? You can't leave Colchester Council out. You can't leave Violent Society out. No. You can't leave Police State out. You can't leave Bullshit Crass out. So, the sets are getting longer and longer because that people will want to hear all of those songs. They'll want to hear some of the new stuff. And we get lovely, messages back from people saying, oh my God, your new album's amazing. You will play these when you come over to the stage. We want to hear this. We want to hear that. But then they also, pick out random songs, like songs that we put on our first ever demo back in about 78, 79, things like I Think of You and songs like that, and then songs like Mutt that were recorded in 95, 96. So again, when you go to America, it's an entirely different thing again, that they want to hear some songs that you never play in the UK or never play in Europe. And so they have their own set list. We're devising that at the moment ahead of going over to tour in the States in September. So, the set gets longer and longer. The songs are more and more. So at the moment, we are concentrating on that, concentrating on the shows. And whilst I've got lots of lyrics and Bart has got lots of tunes and I've got some tunes too, we're not putting anything together in the studio just right now because it's just important to get out and play shows and get out and see people, which is what everybody's asking us to do, you know.
You've done very well for a punk band from Colchester that had a lot of songs kind of based around that area. Your fan base has grown really well, hasn't it?
You know, it is incredible, and you're always very humbled by it. I mean, really, we played Rebellion last year, and you know, we had people over from all over the world, and you know, guys from Brazil and Australia, and people that had said, you know, I want to see this band and this band and this band, but, you know, I'm really here to see you guys. It's a lifetime dream to see you guys. I've loved you since, you know, 1980, 1981, whatever it might have been. And it's pretty incredible that people hold you in such high regard. When we've been in the States and, you know, big bands in the States, bands that people know really, really well, who say, you know, if I hadn't listened to you guys when I was growing up, I wouldn't have formed a band. And these are some pretty influential bands out there. So it is incredibly humbling when you hear that for a, you know, a bunch of scruffy kids, you know, who formed a little band. Our reach has been pretty immense, and I'm just humbled by that. It's so lovely that we have the opportunity to go out and play in you know, far-flung places in the world. It's
incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible. Really good, though. It really is incredible. Yeah, we it's nice because, you know, I've known Bart and Stuart for more than 40 years now. And they are two of the most, you know, down-to-earth, humble guys I've ever known. I mean, they are my best friends in the world. And so it's a pleasure to be out with them. You know, there's no egos. It's just, you know, they're always blown away by the response that we get. Last time we were in the States, a few years back, we got absolutely mobbed when we were out there. And I'd been saying to Stuart, who wasn't able to come with us the time before, last time we were in the States, we got mobbed. And he said, "Oh, come on, you're making it up." And I said, "No, I promise you I'm not." And then when he experienced it for himself, he was shocked because, you know, he's just a regular guy like I am. You know, we're not special. And that's why when people come over and are so gushy and so lovely with us, they can't believe that we're just happy to hang out with them, happy to go and have a beer with them, happy to spend some time with them, find out, like, well, what are you guys doing tomorrow? And they're like, nothing. I said, well, we'll come over. What? We'll come over to yours. You know, you say you've got a pool. We'll come over to your pool. You know, we're like, we don't have to be in our next gig until like 8 o'clock at night. You know, we've got a couple of hours to kill. Why don't we just come over? We'll get some beer and and they're like, really? Yeah, really? Yeah, why not? You know, so because why not? Why would you not do that? Exactly. Why would you not go and hang out with some people and hear their stories and chat to them about us being, you know, regular guys the same as you? So
yeah,
we do
exactly.
A lot of that. You know, you know, I don't mean it in a. Oh, I don't mean it in any other way other than I'm saying it, really. I like people. I like to spend time with people. I really do. I think people are fascinating. I'm curious about people's lives and what they do. And so any chance I get, if people say, like, I'm having a party tomorrow, do you guys want to come? And we go, if we can make it work, we'll be there, you know. And if we can, we'll go, you know. Yeah. And when we turn up, they're like, oh my God, Special Duties really turned up. And you're like, why would we not? You know, you guys invited us. It's 2 minutes down the road from where we are. Why not? You know, but yeah. So when you do that and you see how much it means to people, you just want to do more of that because, you know, it's, you know, you're a long time dead. And,
very
you know,
true.
I think it's nice to give something back. It's nice for people to realise that, you know, we get the most immense amount of pleasure from playing our stuff in front of people. It's the most fun you can ever have. And so it's just nice to get out and hang out with the people. So, yeah, that's how we feel about it.
Do you still, does Steve still have anything to do with the band or nothing now?
No, he doesn't, but we're still friends. I mean, you know, we're all still friends. That, you know, all of us still get to see Steve. He just chose, you know, 12 years ago to sort of step out, said he'd had enough and you know, wanted to go off and do some other stuff. And you know what? We've been friends a very long time. We've been friends since we were kids. So, you know, I respected that. You know, he said, you know, well, why don't you sing? You sang when we toured with the business in '95. I sung on the tour that year because Steve couldn't come. And we got a replacement bassist for that tour. And he said, you know, you've done it before. You know how to do it. And I said, yeah, I suppose I could. And he said, well, it'd be nice to keep the band going. You know, there's a lot of appetite for the band out there. So the fact that I don't want to do it doesn't mean you guys shouldn't. And I thought that was very big of him. You know, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And we've been friends for a very, very long time. And I thought that was very decent of him to say that. So with his blessing, we keep the band going. And, you know, we saw him. He came to one of our gigs in Colchester, and he turned up to one of our gigs and said it was the funniest thing to sort of see us playing and for him not to be part of it. But I still managed to drag him on stage.
Oh, brilliant.
I don't think he was quite looking for it, but I said to him, come on, you're joining us on stage, Mr. Arrogant, everybody, you know. So that was nice. And he just got up and was abusive to everyone as he normally is. It's typical Steve. And then got off. It was great. It was absolutely exactly what we wanted. You know, it was brilliant, you know. So
that is so good. That is so good.
Brilliant. Yeah, so with his blessing, we carry on, and I'm very pleased that he gives us our blessing to do that, and we enjoy it, you know.
That's brilliant. What's next for you guys then?
We've got quite a few gigs lined up. We're in Berlin this weekend. We've got Punk and Disorderly in Berlin, so we're flying out on Friday this week to Berlin. We're playing on the Saturday. I think we're second from top of the bill or third from top of the bill, which will be fun. And then we've got Punk Festival in Morecambe at the end of the month. And then we've got a whole bunch of stuff during the summer. And before we then go off to the States in September, we're playing a big festival in LA, and then a whole bunch of dates up into Canada, I think, as well, for one day in Canada, up through Washington and Oregon, and then back down again. So yeah, it'll be fun. Don't know the whole itinerary yet, but some towns or cities that I've not played before. So I think there are lots of people that say, you know, will you come to Utah? Will you come to Salt Lake City? And I think this year we will. So that'll be fun. Some places that we haven't played before. It'll be great to get out and meet the fans. So yeah. Really...
And ironically, you said Oregon?
Yeah.
Just a band came to Malta, and they're part American, part Swedish, and they actually live in Oregon.
Okay.
So they came here for a festival we have here. I think it's on its fifth year, I think. That attracts a lot of people from all over the world. And I mean, it's just ironic that a band where you're going is actually from there. That's quite cool.
Well, that's fun. Yeah, you should make mention of us to them. We can connect with them, you know.
Yeah, I will. I'll mention to them that there's a band from where I used to live in England coming up.
coming to your city soon.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Not sure whereabouts in Oregon, Portland, I think maybe, but I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. Our booking agent in the US is doing the tour, of course, so he's booking that. So.
But it's fantastic, though, isn't it? The little Colchester band, or at the time was a little Colchester band.
Of course.
Well, brilliant.
Yeah, now we've got a great booking agent, probably the finest booking agent, a company called Crawl Space, who are based down in San Diego. And the guy who runs it is just a legend. He's just great to work with, and he books all our shows now in the States, and does a fantastic job. And we get well looked after, and fun to do. You're a long way from home. You need to be looked after a little bit. You're traveling a long way. You travel 400 or 500 miles between shows. You need a nice hotel. You need a nice amount of food. It needs to be looked after so you can do a good show for the fans. So, Ron sorts all that out and he does a fantastic job.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they could book you to get here as well.
There you go. Well,
the festival's certainly a good one.
Put us in touch. Yeah, send us the details after this at some stage.
I will. I'll send you the details of the guy who does it. And
talk to them.
It's a kind of goth, industrial, metal. It's all mixed. But there's recently obviously we just had the festival here, and it's 3 days. Yeah. There was a band from Spain called Toxic Army.
Yep.
Never seen a band so active.
Brilliant.
Lead is a female, and my God, talk about jumping around, head banging, and God knows what. I mean, fantastic, and the sound, wow.
Yeah, nice.
But we've had loud bands here. We've had Eggvan. They're from Mexico.
Yeah.
We've had Combi Christ from America. You must have probably heard of Combi Christ.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have, yeah.
They've come here twice. So some really loud bands come. So, I mean, I can't see why you wouldn't fit in.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, give us the details.
I will. I'll send you the details.
They can have a listen to us and see if they like what they hear and see where we go from there.
No problem at all, Steve.
Brilliant.
Anything else you'd like to mention?
Oh, I just, thank you for taking the time to reach out to us and interview us. As you say, we are this, we're very, very mindful of the fact we're this little band from Colchester that's done rather well for itself,
Very well.
But I think part of that is just being decent. I think I laboured the point a little bit today, and I don't mean to labour it, but I think there are so many bands that when we turn up, we'll be supporting a bigger band who literally turn up 5 minutes before the gig and leave 5 minutes afterwards. And you think that's not really the spirit of why we're doing it. The spirit of why we're doing it is, will you sign this for me, Steve? I mean, my wife does the merch for us, or all of our gigs in the UK. She does all the merch. And people come over and go, "Oh my God, that band is incredible. Do you work for them or do you know them?" And she's like, "Oh, my husband's the singer." I'm like, "Oh my God, you're married to Steve Duty. Oh my God, that's incredible." So poor woman has had to put up with that for God knows how many years. But is he coming back? She said, "Oh yeah, he'll be back." And I always go to the merch stand, and people are always blown away that I'll actually be bothered to sit at the merch stand and sign stuff and chat to people. But it's the best job in the world. It's what I say about guys that are talented enough to become footballers. That's not work. That's doing something that you love.
Yeah.
I think if one or two more of them were a little bit more humble than they are, then I think the football world would be a nicer place to be. But certainly for what we do, I think being that little bit humble about, standing and talking to people, it creates a nice environment, a safe environment for people to be in. People love coming to a Duties gig because when you come, it's, they meet us, they chat with us, we talk about the past, we talk about when they came and watched us in 1983 in a club in Manchester, all of that. And you know what? Between me and Bart and Stuart, one of us will remember that. And they say, "You won't remember, but I was the guy in the yellow." And you go, "Yeah, we remember because you took Dave home." And you're like, "How did you remember that?" I go, "God knows. I don't know." But, that's special for them. And it's special for us because we'll be in the car on the way home going, "Can you believe we met Johnny?" We haven't seen since 1983. Those stories are special. We've got lots and lots of those sort of stories.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, but you'd never have that if you didn't go out and chat to everybody about it, And incredibly, what struck me, we played at a festival in Scarborough. It was a punk festival in Scarborough, brilliantly run, fantastic people, and a festival we'd definitely play again. Really, really well organised, really, really good people. And there were people there that were in their 40s, 50s, who'd never, ever heard of Special Duties, never. They were into oi bands, you know, and had never listened to Special Duties. And one guy in particular who came to me and said, do you know what? He said, I could leave now. And I said, why? He said, well, I don't think it's going to get any better than that. He said, you guys blew the stage to bits. He said, oh my God, I've never heard you guys before, but you were absolutely brilliant. Anyway, half an hour later, he came back with his mates saying, this is Steve. I've just been chatting to him. Tell him what you said to me. And he went, I said, my God, who is this band? This band are amazing. So honestly, if you get one or two people a year say that to you, then it makes this and everything and all the traveling and all the work that you do behind the scenes, it's not a job. It's just a pleasure, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I think if a few more people realise that this is a privileged job, it's a wonderful thing that you do, going out and playing these songs for people, and it gives people so much joy. One other very quick story from Scarborough. We played Bullshit Crass, and a huge guy came up to me and he was really emotional, and he said to me, do you know what? He said, I haven't heard that song since back in the day, 1982, 83. He said, and I was having some problems with my brother back then. And he said, and I haven't spoken to my brother for about 30 years. He said, and we've only just got back in touch with each other and we're now speaking again. He said, but he said, me and my brother used to come and watch you guys regularly. And he said, we always used to sing that song at the top of our voices. He said, and hearing it again just transported me back to that time when me and my brother had a fantastic relationship. And I just wanted to say thank you. It made me emotional, it made me cry, but it just reminded me of happier times, and thank you for that. And you think, I don't even know how I could respond to that. You know, that's just such a lovely story. And all I did was say, well, I wish you well, and I look forward to seeing you and your brother at one of the next gigs, and make sure you come and introduce him, and we'll play the song and we'll dedicate it to the pair of you. And that's all you can say, you know.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it wonderful? Yeah, isn't it wonderful?
It's absolutely lovely when it's like that. And I think you're right. I think bands that take the time for the fans, I think that is a brilliant, brilliant thing.
I wish more would do it.
I do as well.
They'd get so much back if they did. They really would, you know.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they get more respect for a start.
Yeah.
Because respect works both ways. And if a band respects the fans will respect them more. And
for sure. Yeah, for
definitely.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We're all fans of bands. I mean, that's the truth. You know, we're in a band, but we're fans of bands. And those bands that are humble and decent, you know, they get a lot of respect from me. But those who think that they're, you know, rock stars, and I soon go off those bands, you know.
Yeah. Well, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
And to you, Mike. Thank you.
Been a hell of a long time since I...
Been a long time coming. Well, we need to have an update. We should diarise an update. You know, I can tell you what we're up to next year and the year. We'll keep in touch.
Definitely keep in touch, Dave. Definitely.
Yeah, look forward to that.
But like I said, thank you very much for your time, and it has been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thank you.
And good luck with all your gigs coming up and your American tour. Fantastic.
I know, yeah, can't wait. We're excited for that, you can imagine. So, yeah, no, thank you.
It'll be fantastic, I'm sure.
Brilliant.